Hey, everyone. Welcome to episode 9 of the HU podcast. It is February 25th, 2024. Let's get into our mission statement. So Andrew and I, we've agreed to provide humble retail investors the latest news, filings, and happenings in the most accurate way possible and without compromise. And here's our safe harbor. We are investors in HUMBL. We are part of the HUMBL community on HUMBL Social, and we are passionate about blockchain technology. We are not speaking on behalf of HUMBL. We are not HUMBL employees or contractors. We're not insiders. We're not financial advisors. We're not compensated in any way. And any reproduction of this podcast without explicit permission is prohibited. It is available on recording on the HS2 platform, and we also upload on Monday mornings to YouTube. So what we wanted to accomplish with this episode is actually going through a news release that was uploaded on Tuesday of last week, and it has to do with HUMBL Tickets. So I'm going to pull it up here, and we're going to kind of dissect it. I'm also going to refer to some things maybe in the past, and also some trademarks and whatnot about HUMBL itself. So to get started, we kind of discussed this in the community call last week, but HUMBL and the AFL is launching their own ticketing program on the blockchain. Now there is some specifics about this. It is only for the Oregon Black Bears team. That's one of the AFL teams, and how it works is HUMBL is going to get a portion of all ticketing, regardless if it's on the HUMBL ticketing platform or not. However, I would assume that there would be more revenue that's tied to this, along with profit, by using the HUMBL ticketing platform. So something that I mentioned last week, and maybe I can just increase the size here so we can all have an ease of view here. The ownership of the Oregon Black Bears is actually Kayvon Thibodeau, and he is a current New York Giants outside linebacker. So he plays in the NFL, which is another associated league, if you think about HUMBL ticketing and maybe potentials in the future. And he's a former Oregon Duck Star. So that's the University of Oregon, or the NCAA. So he has ties in multiple leagues here. So 3 different football leagues. That'd be the NCAA, the AFL, which he owns this team, and then the NFL, as well as he's a participant on that team. Okay, so there's some interesting information that was also posted by Senior on HS2 as well that we may get into, but let's go through the news release first. Okay, so the new ticketing program, it's only for Oregon currently. Whether it gets put into other teams or it scales out to other leagues is not stated in this news release. So I guess they're going to start with one team in the AFL, and we've actually been to that website. So let me pull up the website as well. Give me a moment. Pull it up in the HUMBL search. Okay, so here's the ticketing. You go to OregonBlackBears.com, and once you click on tickets, it will bring you to this HUMBL Tickets. We talked about this a bit in length in the community call last week, but for the entire season tickets for the 2024 season, it's between $360 and $450. They do have a $20 game. It's a preseason against the Washington Wolfpack, and then from there, it's between $20 and $100. So some interesting things in here is that it's first come, first serve. So if you do get into one of these areas, you choose your own seat. Now consider that sort of like a general admission that may be segregated by the section. And if we look actually in the news release, there's nothing limiting the technology to have a seat or a row or anything like that. Maybe it's just something that Oregon wanted to have for their first season, or all future seasons going forward. It's completely up to them. So to go back to the news release, and this is something that I think we need to really touch on, is that the tickets are NFTs, but they're also NFT PMs. So it has private metadata, and private metadata is something that we wanted Senior to kind of talk more about. I just got a text message from him. It looks like he will be stuck in traffic for about 20 minutes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this news release, and then I think Senior is going to join in about 20 minutes, and we can go actually through some questions with this stuff. So the tickets, NFTs, but they have private metadata, which is kind of interesting. And Ahmed, maybe you want to give me your opinion on this, and maybe introduce yourself as well. But typically NFTs only have public-facing information, which makes it non-fungible. You can see the transactions, you can see the data in there, you can see the monkey picture. This seems far more intricate than anything that I've seen regarding NFTs. So Ahmed, do you have any thoughts on this before we get Senior in here and we actually ask him?
Well, I think that's really why we Senior today, is to kind of go in depth on this private metadata concept and the proprietary nature of it. And as you mentioned, with the tickets generally, you kind of, what you see is what you get on the face of the ticket, and it allows single entry to an event. So if we dig deeper, it looks like there's a lot more functionality now with these tickets, and I'm hoping as well that Senior will be able to explain some of that to us. And as Patrick mentioned, we've been discussing some of these things just as investors and those interested in HUMBL itself in the background the last couple of days. And I personally am a season ticket holder, of a professional basketball team. So a lot of this is of interest to me because I want to see where it's headed in terms of me selling my tickets or transferring them. And also, it's really fascinating, and I'm really looking forward to what Senior has to say about the private metadata.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be some sort of side chain. I guess let's not speculate, and we'll just ask him what the heck this means. So going forward, a major issue in primary and secondary ticketing is secure authentication, sales, and tracking while maintaining privacy of the users. So that private metadata obviously is masked at some level. This innovative HUMBL ticket program solves these issues through the use of digital wallets and blockchain technology. So very very cool. And I want to really highlight this portion, secondary ticketing, right? And just in the interest to kill some time, maybe not necessarily kill it, but an interesting anecdote. Rad, are you online? I see you in the crowd, but if you want to give maybe your Ticketmaster story. I've seen other posts in HUMBL Social about Ticketmaster being a pain in the ass and whatnot, not only with primary ticketing but secondary ticketing as well. This secondary ticketing is basically reselling. And invite Rad to the stage if he can hop up or not. Another friend of the podcast, Radimus. Rad, are you here? He dropped down. Might just be having some issues. But this is something we talked about last week, just kind of riffing off of this. We didn't know if the primary tickets, this is obviously primary ticketing, right? So you're buying it from the source. You're going to tickets.humble.com and you're choosing the Oregon Black Bears, and you're selecting a section. There's varying prices depending on the section that you want to select. Obviously, the better section, right? So if you're midfield, then you can see both both sides of the field and whatnot. It's going to be more expensive, and then you have a quantity, and then you would add this to your cart and check out. So this is all primary ticketing. Secondary ticketing would be me selling it to, say, Ahmed or Rad, and there may be fees associated with that. or not. So that secondary ticketing is a big deal. There's a huge amount of it, like StubHub. You can do Ticketmaster reselling, things like that, and we'll see if we can get right up here. Yeah, so I think the secondary ticketing is I'd be interested to see what the actual percentage is versus the primary, but a lot of this is not verified, right? So Ahmed, you have basketball tickets. I'm assuming you buy them through Ticketmaster, and you can sell them through Ticketmaster as well,
Yeah,
right?
so in my case, I buy them, directly from the team, and then throughout the season, I'm able to, either transfer them to somebody else using Ticketmaster because that's kind of what the team uses as their platform. But I'm also able to resell them on a platform specifically for season ticket holders. The issue with that is, as a seller, for example, I don't pay a fee if I relist my tickets, for resale. However, the buyer, if they purchase them from me through Ticketmaster in this case, pays quite a large sum in terms of fees, even though it's a resale ticket and the ticket's already been sold once. So I think this is in line with what Rad was talking about a couple of weeks ago, and his story about once a ticket is sold and then it's resold again. Basically, Ticketmaster in this case is making money 2 and 3 times on these resales, and that's really the biggest bugaboo in terms of the secondary market right now.
Right, right. So they're almost double dipping on something that's already been sold. It's like a tax on top of a tax. Yeah, I couldn't, and I like going to sporting events. I like going to concerts, whatnot. It seems like it's unnecessary, and there has to be disruption in this market. So looking is and this is where I kind of had the seating comment a couple minutes ago. So there's public metadata, so for public information like date and location of the event, and then private metadata for more specific event and seating details to preserve customer privacy. So as I mentioned, these sections, they are first come, first serve. So if you come early enough, I'm assuming you can sit right in the front row, and you can catch a football or a player if they go over the boards or whatever. But it's not a limitation of the ticketing itself. It's probably a choice of the organization. Okay, so NFT tickets put the control directly in the hands of the ticket holder. That means they have the autonomy, and this is the secondary market that we're talking about, to sell or transfer the tickets without needing to go through a third-party broker or platforms. So you don't have to go through Ticketmaster, the secondary market, or StubHub, or SeatGeek, or whatever, just to sell your ticket, and then they add a fee onto them reselling it. So you would have to jack up your ticket price so you can make your money back, and then I'm assuming they would even charge the person buying it once again. So kind of interesting. It does eliminate the middleman, and that's these resellers here. You can sell their tickets on any NFT marketplace. So this is actually really, really interesting. Any NFT marketplace. We know that in the past, HUMBL's had NFT marketplaces. You could purchase music on there. You could. Oh, and there's Alfonso. There's Senior. He's here. Alfonso, can you hear us?
I can. Good evening. How's everyone doing?
Great. Thank you for joining on such short notice.
Yeah, not a problem. Thank you for inviting.
Yeah, I'm just going to make a post on HUMBL Social saying that you're in here. Maybe we get some more viewers and some listeners. So we're actually just going through the news release, but we have some specific questions for you that I think warrant some, not necessarily answers, but it's really curious. A lot of us are interested in what this NFT PM sort of means, right? So this private metadata, and I want to say, like, from our perspective, what does that actually mean from HUMBL?
So, I mean, I don't know if you guys, and I'm sure many people will recall, I was quite vocal about being against NFTs for tickets in its current state a year ago. And the reason being was there's lots of wallet watchers out there. And there's lots of people that are really interested in knowing what people do, where they go, when they go, things of that nature. So from that point, I really wanted to build something where you could have an NFT that serves as something that's a commemorative memorabilia or a commemorative item, and you can easily transact it via any marketplace or wallet-to-wallet commerce. So that was really important. But at the same time, we wanted to preserve privacy so that people wouldn't know exactly what event you're going to, where you're sitting, things of that nature. So we know that several airline companies tried doing NFT tickets before, but yet the ticket was really something that was issued separate, apart from the NFT. They weren't really attached. And there was and the reason was because of the personal details being there. So for almost, I don't know, 6, 7 months now, we were working on something to be able to have a traditional NFT that you can trade on any platform. You can do wallet-to-wallet commerce with, but yet it would have an additional layer that would serve as a ticketing platform, or for tickets, certificates of authenticity, basically all manner of detail, to where you would be able to have PII, personally identifiable information, and or information that you don't really want fully public, and that sits in what we call private metadata. And you basically have a public chain NFT that references private data that could be sitting on a permission blockchain. It could be sitting in a database. It can be sitting in any type of environment, really. And that upon transferring of it, it gets encrypted and signed with a digital wallet. So as soon as the NFT transfers possession, so does the encryption keys for that private metadata. That was probably the biggest challenge we had, but it opens up quite a bit of possibilities in what you can do. And then we also said, as we know, there's a lot of fraud and counterfeiting in tickets. When the ticket's transferred, we want to make sure that the previous ticket holder that may have screenshot it, or, printed it out, or who knows what they might have done with it, where that barcode that gives you access gets voided and a brand new barcode is created for the new holder. So there's a lot of very cool things that happen behind the scenes, but yet you still have all of the traditional characteristics of an NFT, plus all the value adds of having private encrypted data within the same NFT. So there's a lot that can be done with this. As you get into other aspects, and I talked about this back in May, prior to us even releasing anything, but I said it would be cool if there was something where, if you have something where an NFT might require a lien holder or some type of title, or a government agency to sign off on something, you could have multiple people sign the NFT, so a multi-sig, and you can change custodianship of the NFT should that need to take place in a situation where there's a lien holder or a government entity. So I think it's pretty cool. As it sits right now, we have not created any APIs for other companies to be able to interpret our private metadata. So it's fully proprietary. And the NFT on itself can be transferred and read within any wallet that people want. But to access the private data, you have to use the Humble wallet.
And just a question on that.
Yeah.
If you're transferring this to another wallet, obviously that there's no issues if you're doing a Humble wallet to a Humble wallet. But the whole marketplace idea, does that mean that Humble's had marketplaces in the past, right? Obviously that code still exists, that functionality probably still exists as well, and incorporating it on the new platform probably when I'm not going to obviously speak for anybody, but a lot of that work's done. So would that be a way to do transactions to people that you don't know and to sell your ticket?
Well, I mean, the really cool thing about it is it's an NFT. You can transact with people however you like. You can use any marketplace that transacts NFTs. You could do direct wallet-to-wallet commerce with people. You could post about it on a social media platform. If that social media platform happens to have verified users, there's an additional layer of trust there. So the door is wide open for how you want to transfer or transact that ticket. What becomes really cool is you are not in a situation where traditional tickets have to go back to a secondary ticketing provider, and you're stuck with fees that could be as much as the ticket or more than the ticket value. So
Right.
Not only are you gaining security, not only is there consumer protection, being the fact that the tickets are authentic. Tickets cannot be duplicated because as soon as it transfers, it's a new barcode to get into the venue. But it also gives you, the ticket holder, the ability to transact it however you want. After the event's over, if you want to, let's say something really cool or special happens at the event, and you want to keep that as a collectible or trade it or sell it, you're able to do that.
Wow. So just a question on the person in the arena or the event, they scan your ticket in your Humble wallet or whatever wallet you're using, preferably the Humble wallet. What software are they using to read that? Is that also like a Humble sort of
So
application?
we do have an application for venues. I can't speak too much to that right now, but any Humble venue would be using the Humble venue application to scan and validate a ticket. As mentioned in the video, that ticket can be scanned at multiple places within a venue. So if, for example, that ticket happens to include parking, it could be scanned by the parking terminals. If it includes food or beverage, it can be scanned by the food or beverage terminals. And each one of those items that might be included with that ticket get checked off appropriately and canceled out at that time. And then to enter the venue, obviously the ticket provides that functionality as well.
Wow. Okay. Very cool.
Now, once a ticket has been scanned once by any part of the venue, if it's transferred, then all aspects of the tickets are gone and it becomes just an NFT at that point. So you can't get into the venue and then transfer it to somebody and somebody else use any other aspect of that ticket once it's been scanned by the venue. So a lot of very cool things that go into play on how that works. A lot of proprietary technology in there. And it could have many, many uses, right? It could be used for, let's say you have to get a certification to be a swim instructor or a certification to enter a swimming pool. You could be issued a pass with one of those tickets that gives you access, and obviously if it's ever transferred out of that wallet, that gets voided. It can prove that you were directly issued that while it sits in your verified wallet. So it serves quite a bit of purposes.
So there's no really, like, from a scalability issue. This could be when you talk about a swim pass, you're talking about like a public swim. 50 people may buy tickets to that, right? Or you take your kids swimming at a community center, and then it could scale up all the way to season tickets within a professional league, right? So the scalability is enormous.
But maybe it's not even a ticket to enter. Maybe it's a ticket to prove that you've had lessons or that you're at a skill level qualified for that type of pool, right? Without an instructor or something of that nature. Or maybe you took a class to be a lifeguard through one of the different programs, and a lot of teams do that, and that's a lot of summer jobs. But now if you're able to have that card that's fully verifiable and lives digitally with you, so all kinds of fashions where a ticket or a pass can be issued within that environment.
That's great.
Yeah.
So ticketing's been core for HUMBL for a long time, right? Everybody, I think, long-term investors remember Tickery and acquiring companies because of growing fast and whatnot. What's the importance of this vertical to HUMBL, and why make the transition from, say, acquiring a company like Tickery to making all the software in-house, right? I know you're a big part of that, obviously. That quiet period building the HUMBL platform and everything. It's incredible now. It's night and day. So maybe just talk about that vertical and why it's important to HUMBL.
Yeah, honestly, I can't really speak to much anything about Tickery. I don't have any knowledge to what they did, how, why. It was kind of before my time.
Right.
From my understanding, they never created tickets. I think they were a secondary marketplace, and I'm speaking out of very little understanding to what they did. But having your own self-service ticketing platform within your own digital wallet obviously has a lot of value. Ticketing was on Brian's vision for quite some time, as you mentioned. So, now that we have that ability, our first exposure to it was a large event that we did last year at the Motherland Festival. That was our first dry run at the technology. At that point, we had NFTs as something completely separate because we didn't have the ability to have them combined with private data. We were fortunate to have done it in an area that had very limited connectivity. So we learned now that as soon as you receive a ticket, it's saved. So if there's no connectivity at all, as long as you received it before you arrived to the arena, it's saved and cached to your mobile device. So it does not matter what type of connectivity is at the arena. So it's basically been something that we've been working on for over a year now. And our first event, we had over 10,000 people that attended. And it was, we were far away from home, and it was raining, and there wasn't Wi-Fi, and there was, the conditions were a bit challenging, but we took everything that we learned from that and applied that to the technology that we're bringing today to the AFL and hopefully many more.
That's just incredible. I mean, I can speak from experience. I have season tickets to an Ontario Hockey League team, and the Wi-Fi is just absolutely brutal in the building. So having it cached on your phone, not having to fumble through, say, your mail or whatever to find these tickets, just to scan them. I mean, that's an important lesson to bring over, and the scalability of 10,000 people obviously probably helped land the AFL deal. So that's great. Andrew, do you have any questions for Senior? I know he's on the road, so he may not be able to get off mute.
Taking the time to speak with us. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Thanks for taking the time to join us, Senior. I had a question. If I buy something and it's on the blockchain and I want it off, I want to destroy a record of it ever happening. Is that possible?
I mean, the record will always be there. You could take the NFT and burn the NFT, but there's still a record there.
So where is the record? It would be attached to my wallet and the seller's wallet?
It would be attached to, it's basically, depending on what network it happened on, it would be on, if it was an Ethereum, it would be on Etherscan. If it was Polygon, it would be on Polyscan. But it's basically written into the block of that transaction.
So it would be impossible for somebody to steal something from me and claim it as their own, so to speak, without having a valid transaction through the blockchain.
Well, I mean, they can claim it as their own. I guess the dispute there is whether they, how they took it from you. Obviously, if they took it from you, there's a transaction of it going from their wallet to your wallet. If it's something that's done for a cost, then the cost will always be there. If somebody happened to pick up your phone and send it from your phone to their phone, there's a discrepancy there of what transaction might have transpired, and that's not something that a blockchain can capture or answer.
That makes sense. I was just curious because somebody asked me the other day, where is it and how is it there forever? And basically, can somebody go in and scrub it? And I said, no, it's not possible. And I gave them my first grade education explanation on it. I just wanted to make sure that I was half-assed correct.
So the easiest way to kind of explain things, right? I mean, it's on a distributed ledger, which is across multiple nodes, and it's self-repairing. So an easy way to analyze this is like DNA, right? If something happens, it auto repairs or corrects. And the chain's pretty much the same way. If somebody hacks one node and modifies something, well, when it catches up and it goes through checksums, it auto corrects. So hopefully that answers your question in a way that might be a little more relatable when you look at kind of how DNA autocorrects.
Yeah, that helps. Thank you.
Do we? I think there was a question brought up on HS2 about blocks and being verified by blocks, and it seems like this private metadata sort of technology, not necessarily replacing it, but it's what you've developed this for. Is there a specific reason why the verification by blocks isn't being used in the ticketing case, or is the private metadata sufficient for the use case and going forward, especially because it's proprietary to HUMBL?
Yeah, blocks is not used in anything for the ticketing platform. But with private metadata and with the way everything's done, everything's fully verifiable within itself.
Okay. And just from HUMBL's perspective, obviously this is all proprietary. HUMBL Tickets is once again on a trademark application. recently, which is great. Is there any sort of competition that is doing this stuff? This is the first time I'm hearing about private metadata NFTs. This is like really the first time anybody's talking about NFT tickets. The sort of elephant in the room is monkey pictures are these NFTs, but obviously, this is a way of representing data on a blockchain that's immutable. It's incredible. Is there anybody else doing this?
I mean, to my knowledge, there's other companies that are doing tickets on NFTs. I don't know exactly what or how they're doing it. I do know that airlines have tried it, as I talked about, but I have not personally seen anyone try and do what we are doing right now, where you have publicly facing data and then encrypted non-publicly facing data or private metadata. So not that I've seen, there's, I haven't seen anything else out there like that, but there are other products or platforms that do NFT tickets. And the biggest issue is a lot of data that should be private is public.
Right. I mean, if you look at the airline perspective, people tracking flights, they were doing that with Elon Musk. They were doing that with Taylor Swift, right? It starts to get a little bit uncomfortable. You can almost stalk people doing that. And if you know where they're sitting or if they're going to games and they are the, wallet watching and whatnot, it seems like a no-brainer to have that privacy there on top of that.
Yeah. So you still have the layer of being able to transact very easily. You still have a layer of being able to verify that something's authentic. It's minted, it's coming from the right deployer. You can see all of that. What you can't see is some of the information that really shouldn't be visible. So you're adding that layer of proprietary information or private information to an NFT, which ends up adding a lot of functionality, or a word that we always hear is, what's the utility behind it? Well, now the utility is you have private data that can be used to store all manner of things. If it's used for, let's say, an item, a physical item, as a certificate of registration or authenticity, you could store a receipt within the private metadata that later, in California, unfortunately, we're subject to wildfires and houses unfortunately burn down, and sometimes you need access to receipts and historical data. Now, if you can have that attached to a certificate of authenticity or registration, you don't necessarily want that available to the world. You don't want them knowing, what you bought, where you bought it, what you paid for it, dates you bought things. So a lot of flexibility there. Hopefully that kind of answered your question a little more.
Yeah, that's great. When we look at the Santa Cruz County, the relationship it has with HUMBL, you guys have been working very closely with their IT teams. It seems like they've even put in their notes at some of the meetings that they're working on more functionality and they're learning more and whatnot, right? Has that sort of same relationship been happening with the AFL and the Oregon Black Bears on gathering requirements and maybe adding to what was learned in Motherland Festival to make it, I guess, a good relationship there?
I think with all customers, as part of the customer discovery process, the product market fit process, ease of use, you have that phase with not only the IT department, but you have it with all aspects of the customer, just because the goal is to deliver a quality product that has ease of usability. Because if it becomes difficult or cumbersome or complicated, then you run into issues of product market fit, right? So, for example, part of the magic in what we've done with not only the County of Santa Cruz, but with these tickets, is the fact that people don't really have to know or understand how NFTs or wallets work. You get a simple email with your ticket. You click on it. A universal link opens the application. You click whether you want to claim the tickets or not. If you wanted to, from that moment, forward it to someone else and they claim the tickets, that can be done too. So the key is you basically work with multiple areas of any customer and their customer base to kind of ensure that you have something that's easy to use, easy to understand, and that'll help you acquire additional customers in the future.
Perfect. I only have one last question for you, and then maybe we open the floor if you're okay with that to other folks on the call if you're all right with that. But as sort of the main technical lead for HUMBL, right? Do you have a wish list of things you would like to maybe accomplish, or things that you wish you had at your disposal, as being part of a startup?
It's a great question. Unfortunately, being a pubco, though, it's very difficult to answer that question, because if there is a wish list, it's still it's not something we can really talk about, of items that would like to see new features, things of that nature. I'm more of the mentality of when something's done, then show it and talk about it, then talk about it before we bring it out.
I think that's a great mentality to have. Do you mind taking any questions from the audience if they hop on up here?
Yeah, I'll stick around for a few minutes.
Okay. Anybody, you can request a stage at the bottom, and if you have a question for Alfonso, just raise your hand. We'll give it a couple minutes. Ahmed, Andrew, anything else to add?
Actually, I do have a quick question. Thank you for joining us, Senior. In regards to the transfer of tickets and the barcode being changed, you mentioned scanning the ticket to get into an event. Is that 100% proprietary? Meaning, if you have one of those tickets, you can't just go to an existing venue and get in unless they're using the HUMBL software to scan it. Is that correct?
Well, they're barcodes. They are nothing that's proprietary to anybody. They're basically open standards. Obviously, if you go to a different event and scan the barcode, it's probably going to not match up with their ledger, and they're probably going to go, "This isn't a valid ticket for our event." But a barcode you can scan with any phone, but that's not going to tell you. It'll tell you the data that's contained in the barcode, but it's not going to tell you if it's valid to get you into the event. It's not going to tell you when that ticket was last scanned. It's not going to do a lot of things, but scanning barcodes is not something that's that difficult, right? Any phone has that basic functionality. And there are many different types of barcodes for that matter. There's barcodes as complicated as PDF 417, which is on the back of most common driver's license, that contain and house quite a bit of information. But now that your common telephone can scan and pull off the details from. So yeah, any barcode reader would be able to read the data off the ticket, just like we can read the data off the ticket from any other venue. But that doesn't guarantee access, because it's probably not in line with what their venue's expecting for response data for that event.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, we have Elizabeth up here. Elizabeth, if you go off mute, you can ask a question.
Hey, Alfonso. Thanks for being here. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
We agree.
Great. So I have a question. I'm just trying to wrap my head around this point that you brought up a little while ago. And I'm just going to use, if you don't mind, I'm going to use sort of my language to try to be able to wrap my head around it. So I was stuck on the part where you said that if someone with a HUMBL wallet buys this ticket and they transfer it to somebody that doesn't have a HUMBL wallet, then some of the NFT will transfer or the ticket will transfer, but the metadata won't. So for example, what I'm understanding is it like this. So let's say I'm going to a concert, I'm going to a conference, and only people that have certain licenses can get into this conference. And I happen to have one of these licenses. So in the personal metadata, maybe my license number will be in there, and maybe some information about me, or maybe maybe the venue says, and when you have your ticket, fill out a little bit about yourself, because when we scan your ticket, you're going to pop up on a big screen, and some of your whatever you write in that ticket is going to show up on a screen as like a hello to everybody. But if I transfer that ticket to somebody else, then that metadata, the ticket will be there, but my license information won't be there. And my little personal thing that I wrote to say hello to people that would have popped up on the screen, that's not going to be there. It's just a ticket. Am I getting that right?
The NFT transfers in its entirety. The
Okay.
issue is that the other wallet will not have the capability to decrypt the data, know exactly how to decrypt the data and display the data. So all of the data is there, but their ability to decrypt and display the data is what's they would not have
Oh,
unless we open that out to them.
okay.
Um, so yeah, but it's very simple, right? You have two choices from that point. You could download the HUMBL wallet and transfer that ticket to a new wallet address, or you could download the HUMBL wallet, import your seed phrase or your private key into the HUMBL wallet, and transact with the ticket that way. So, yeah, either way, there isn't really any issue with it. But if you want to be able to, especially in the scenario that you're talking about, where it's a professional credential or certification,
Yeah.
and if you're a registered user on social and you're a verified user, you're verified against your wallet. Well, obviously, if it goes to a different wallet that's not the wallet that shows that you're a verified user, we don't know that you are Elizabeth, right? But
Right.
as long as you're in the wallet that is registered on social to Elizabeth, then we're able to say, yeah, this wallet belongs to Elizabeth. And if it's a venue that might require a picture or a profile picture, then that can be displayed as well. So there's a lot of flexibility in what can be done for those events where you might have to prove you are who you say you are.
Right. And that will that will drop off when I transfer the ticket to someone else, the NFT to someone else, right? If I can't make the conference, I say to my colleague, would you like to go instead? And I transfer it to them, then it would now be a matter of their credentials.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
And they would have to, for us to be able to say, this is, let's say you transferred it to Andrew. Andrew would have to be a verified user so that we would say, yep, this is Andrew. Because if not, we can't, if that wallet that it's transferred to isn't to a verified profile, then it's not possible to attest unless Andrew does a self-attestation saying, yep, I'm Andrew, which, some venues might accept and others may not.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking about you mentioned the swimming and the credential for like being a lifeguard, and that you qualify to get into that particular pool or without a lifeguard on duty. And I was thinking, if I needed a particular license to buy my ticket and I transfer it to someone who also has a license, does the personal metadata drop off my license and add their license as a qualified buyer of that ticket? That's what I'm kind of wondering.
So again,
Okay, sorry.
depending on what it is,
Understood.
that
Okay.
would depend on the issuer of the license if they want. If that license becomes attached to their profile, their social profile, then yes. If that license does not become attached to their social profile, then they end up with a ticket without a license and they can't use it.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. My license information doesn't
It's
transfer.
only yours. It does not.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So in the video, I said when you transfer a ticket and you're from a verified profile, none of that goes with the ticket.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Yep. I was just trying to comb those hairs where they cross, and I really appreciate your explanation. And of course, as always, probably now for a couple of years, your patience with me. Thank you, Alfonso.
That's our job to explain everything and make it as easy to understand. So thank you for, sometimes I might be a little overly technical, but thank you for working with me to help me explain it better.
Oh yeah, no, you give me courage to travel in waters that are not familiar to me because you're so good at it. Thank you. I'll see you next time. You can drop me down if you want now. I don't have any more questions for him.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Anybody else have questions? We'll open it for one more minute. Otherwise, we'll end the call. You have to request a stage at the bottom. Okay, looks like no takers. So I'm going to close this out. You can DM or tag us on the H2 podcast on HUMBL Social or join the H2 podcast group. A lot of folks have already added that to their feeds. So if you want to see the recording afterwards, it's uploaded there automatically. And then tomorrow I will upload it to YouTube as well. Thank you, Alfonso, for answering all the questions. We really appreciate it.
No problem.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, see you next Sunday.